Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Full Pelt Music Podcast. I'm really excited today because I'm going to be joined by the fantastic alt pop duo Blue Violet. We featured a number of their tracks over on our various playlists over the last few months, and that's all been leading to the release of their second album, Faux Animaux, on the 24th of January. So, if you're listening to this podcast on our release day, that does mean that you've got a bit of time to pre-order Faux Anima ahead of its release. You really won't regret it. We've got a fantastic review coming out. We're absolutely loving the album, so cannot wait to dive into this chat with the band. Before then, though, it is the usual reminders from myself. If you would, please do follow Full Pelt on social media. We're on Facebook at Full Pelt and on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Full Pelt Music. Also, please do remember to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. Welcome to Sam and Sarah, Blue Violet, to the Full Pump Music Podcast. I am absolutely delighted to have you both on today because I've just been reviewing your album over the last couple of nights, and I've fallen in love with it. To be honest, it's absolutely fantastic. Faux Anima. Out on the 24th, which will be a few days after this podcast comes out. So obviously people diving straight into this podcast wouldn't have heard of it yet. So my first question is simply, how excited are you for people to hear this fantastic album?
Very is the short and the long answer, to be honest. Very, very excited. Because, well, obviously because we've we're really proud of it and we're really excited for it to be out there. But also it's been quite a long time coming. So yes, we are very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as I say, as you should be, because I've really enjoyed listening to it. And normally I would build up to talking about the album, and we would talk about a few of the singles, and we will talk about a few of the singles. But I just want to stay with the album to start off with, and get some insights into it. So obviously, like you say, it's been a long time coming. You know, how was the recording process for this album? You worked with TJ Allen to record it and produce it. So yeah, what was the experience like for you this time?
Um, it was really enjoyable, wasn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's so TJ mixed the first album. He also mixed this one, but so we already knew him, so there was already kind of a working relationship there, and then it was fun to work with him in kind of producer capacity as well. And it was just the three of us for most of it. I mean, we
Yeah.
had people coming in and out, so we had people coming in to do like someone to come in and do drums and extra keys and stuff like that. But for most of it, it was just the three of us for around 3 or 4 weeks, and
Yeah, we just
yeah, it
kind
was
of we moved in with some friends of ours in Bristol, and they very sweetly let us crash in their place for the whole month. And it was just really fun to like kind of get a bit of a change of scene, be living somewhere that I hadn't lived there before, and just kind of just get really immersed in it. Um,
Yeah.
which I think is nice. The first album we did, we recorded in Devon in Middle Farm, which was amazing. And it was like, we were really kind of cut off from everything, and it was in Devon, so really rural. And then this one was kind of quite a contrast to that because we were recording in the city in Bristol, and it was kind of like the other side of it, like the sort of exciting, uh, bustly feel of the city, which kind of I feel actually probably had quite an impact on the way that we created this album versus the first one.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I love Bristol. It's such a fantastic music city. There's such a great
Mhm.
scene there, and yeah, great place to sort of work and record an album. And I'm glad you sort of touched on kind of yeah, the change from that first album, because I did have a point down here. I'm always intrigued because it's always the difficult second album, as it were. You've gone through the experience, you've made and recorded one, and obviously you've worked with TJ again on this one, so there's some similarities there. But I'm always interested, is there anything that you sort of learned from the experience of making the first record that you this time around you thought, right, we must not do that again, or we must do that again? Is there anything that was a lesson from that last experience that you brought into this process?
That's a good question, actually. I think, yeah. I mean, you always learn stuff, but one thing I maybe should have taken on board was that I think actually on the second album, even though the first one is very like arrangement heavy, and there's a lot of thought that went into that. With this one, I maybe could have done with letting go of things sooner, actually. Um, so that's maybe something that I would take from album two into album three more than what you were asking. But yeah, I guess from album one, patience, and knowing that there's this end goal, but other things are going to happen along the way, and just to kind of embrace that process, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it was also about like I learned a lot in recording the first album in terms of like how to get the most out of, I guess, get the most out of the studio experience, because like I was always really drawn to the stage, and I loved that part of it, and it was just like that was always the kind of the reason for me was, I loved performing, and actually the kind of the quiet nature of being in the studio, or the like really immersive nature of being in the studio was quite new for me. Not for Sam, he'd done a lot of recording before that, but for me, I'd only recorded a couple of EPs before that. It was my first album that I'd ever recorded, and it was a really good lesson for me to kind of like strip it all back and like really connect with the songs. So this time I felt like I was a bit more experienced in that, and I could kind of go in straight away with a more and be a little bit more, I guess, experimental with how I used my voice and all that kind of stuff. So it was, yeah. I feel like with the second album, you definitely feel like you can be more, you can take a bit more risks and like go a little bit deeper into what you're able to do just generally, because you maybe just have a little bit more confidence in what you're making, and you're maybe just a little bit more experienced.
Absolutely, and I love both of those points actually. I mean, Sarah, obviously, that around you got into this more for the live side. I think a lot of artists would echo that. Obviously, you go to gigs and you see bands play, and you think, "Oh, I want to be up there. I want to be doing that." And actually, you maybe don't think too much about the actually we've got to record some music so we can play it live, and love to see that you've had some sort of obviously personal growth and learning from that, and that's what life is all about, which brings me obviously to Sam's point. You say, you know that you've got this end goal, but actually realizing that things are going to happen in the middle. I mean, that is just life, isn't it? For a lot of
Yeah.
people. So it's, yeah, really, really great sort of to hear that.
Because I
Um,
think as well, like when you first start recording, there's like someone might suggest something, and you think you immediately get this anxiety if you don't like it, and you're like, oh no, like what if like as if it's like already out there and someone's hearing it, but actually it's just you're just trying stuff. And I know
You just let
the
the
more
voice
you
let.
do it, the more calm you are about the process, and also knowing that obviously you're working with other people that are professionals, and they're you just learn to trust their judgment on things. So I think that's a fun thing about recording is working with other people and collaborating.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, yeah, I'd make a point there that that's what life is all about in general, isn't it? It is, we're sociable animals, to go off the album title. We should,
Yeah.
spend time together and work together and collaborate. And it's fantastic. And obviously, the outcome of it is like again, I will draw this point home to the listeners numerous times. A fantastic album that they very much need to go and check out. And given this episode will come out on Monday with the album out on Friday. Still plenty of time to go and pre-order it. So I would definitely encourage them to do that. And you've given them listeners quite a few tastes of what to expect with the album. There's been a few singles that I say we've featured over on our various playlists. And I want to run through just a few of them. And the first one is going to be Boogie Shoes, because I mean, it's just a hell of a track. I love the track. And you chose it to be the lead single for the album. And you might already get realize that, I like to look a little bit beyond, just the music and get some insights into the sort of thought processes behind it. And this is one of the questions I love to go to because it fascinates me. What about Boogie Shoes made you choose it? Of all the songs on the album to go, this is the one we want to lead with. This is what we want to show people first, because it is a big choice to have to make. So, yeah, what was it that stood out?
I think a big part of it was actually kind of going back to your first question. It because there was quite a big change, I guess, in well, no, it wasn't like a change in sound, but it was a definite development in sound, and we were going in a slightly different direction with this album. We wanted to, like, off the bat, come out with something that was going to be sort of pointing in that direction, so people knew that there was a slightly different sound. And like a lot of the songs, the newest on the new album, we kind of created this album with the live set in mind. And knowing that we were going to be going out on tour, we wanted to bring out some of the livelier, kind of more energetic songs so that people recognize them when we were playing them. So yeah. And also, it's probably the song on the album that is like the most in keeping with the theme of the whole album. So it kind of felt right to lead with that one, I think.
Yeah, and I think there's another song which we just brought out last week called "Sweet Success," and I think there was a kind of consensus that those two shouldn't go next to each other because they're quite similar in sound. So we thought we'll put one at the start, and then the other one can be the last song before the album comes out. And we kind of thought that was a good way around of doing it as well.
Yeah, definitely makes sense to me, and I think has worked really well. To the point where actually "Sweet Success" is the next song I want to ask you about. Funnily enough, so great minds think alike on that one. And obviously, it is the latest track, sort of the last offering before the album comes out. And I, for "Sweet Success," really just wanted to dig in a little bit around the meaning of the song, and how the song come about for you. So, what can you tell us? What is the story behind the song, as it were?
Um, I guess it's a bit kind of tongue in cheek in a way, but maybe with a more serious underlying message. I mean, it's kind of just about the search for success and what that means, or what we're kind of told that's meant to mean, and how we pursue it, and then what it's like when you actually kind of achieve it, if you ever do, and that feeling not being what you thought it would be, I think. So there's like an air of sarcasm to it, I guess.
Yeah.
But
And we wanted to kind of make it almost like a little bit robotic, so that it kind of, I guess, with like all the conversation around like the development of technology and AI, and how we're kind of all going, we're all kind of becoming quite what's the word, like the use of social media and the use of the internet in general is kind of like directing everybody to almost be acting like in unison with each other, like they don't really have like free thought. And I think that the idea is that like success is like this one sort of channel and this like one direction that people are heading towards, but actually obviously that's not the case at all. But yeah, the idea of that, like cess, it was almost like a robot, or like a kind of an army of robots.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always think the best music is music and themes to the songs that where it's relatable. And I mean, "Sweet Success" is a prime example of this album, of something that, the story of the song as you've just told it, is such a relatable experience. We're in this modern world, living our lives online an awful lot. And yeah, it is just that for me, there's no such thing as normal. but it's drilled into us constantly that there is that the idea of success is that, you get married, you have kids, you have a job that pays well, you get a house and you buy, and actually maybe that's success for some people, but actually for other people, there's other methods, there's other measures of success, I just I think it's a great sort of subject to tackle on a song, and it's
I think we kind of wanted to touch as well on the like ridiculousness of it.
Yeah.
I think that's why we made it quite tongue in cheek and like a bit fun and a bit silly. Because it is, the whole concept is pretty ridiculous, that we're all sort of striving for this thing and nobody really stops to kind of take it all in and experience the world. And I think that we're constantly in this like non-stop march towards this like end goal. So yeah, the kind of ridiculousness of that concept was almost, it is laughable, but it's quite dark, but it's you can't laugh.
No, and again, I think some of the best sort of songs I can think of where there is a sort of more sinister, darker meaning behind them, but it's done tongue in cheek, and it works really well. And obviously, to say those two tracks, a great example for listeners, of what to expect from the album. But there's such a wide sort of diverse palette of influences that have gone into the album, which again makes it feel so special to me. And just to sort of close out on some of the songs, I've got the next note for me. And regular listeners to the podcast will probably know what's coming up because I'm a massive music video geek, love music videos. Have created something called Full Pelt TV now, where we try and plug music videos and the videos themselves as well as the songs, because it's for me a dying art form. I grew up watching music TV. Krang's gone now, Scuzz has gone now. There's not as many outlets, although you've got YouTube obviously, which is useful. But a lot of artists don't put the resource into it, the thoughts into it. You've got a few videos that I think work really well with the songs, and Fire is the one I want to pick up on because I want to pick a third song to talk about, so I'm not going to go with either of the other two. But the visuals of the Fire video, I think, just really make it stand out as well. So while it's relatively simplistic in sort of design, it actually like works on so many levels and cuts through absolutely fantastically. So I mean, on the video, how did you come up with the concept with the video? How did you go about putting that into practice?
So I'm glad you asked about that one because it was the funniest one to film, and definitely the most dangerous music video I've ever but also, I mean, just to your point, what you were saying about music videos, it is something that's very important to us visually. We like to be able to share our music visually as well as sonically, and I think we're the same. We grew up watching music videos, and yes, I know that it's maybe not the done thing to have music videos to every single one of your songs anymore, but for us, it's really important. So we definitely wanted to put the time and energy into making sure that all of the singles that we released had a video element to them, because I just think it's really fun to go in and work with creators that listen to your work, and then you work together to create like a visual element to the music, and it brings it to life in a different way. So yeah, it was really important to us. Luke, who filmed all of our music videos for this album, he had come up with we'd kind of been talking about the idea of the use of fire, but we wanted to make it quite simple and quite kind of, we were thinking fireworks mostly. And then Sam suggested a flare, which in theory was a great idea and looks really good. But it was so unbelievable. The first day that we went to film this music video, it was so unbelievably windy, and we were in Brighton, and we went we got up onto it was on the race course in Brighton, and the first flare, I lit it up. It's the first time I've ever lit a flare, which was terrifying. I can be a bit of a chicken with things like that. Lit the flare, off it went. That was fine. Ran with it, literally. And that was all good. Second flare, pulled the thing out, didn't light. So I was like, okay, well, first of all, I'm holding a stick, essentially like explosives, which hasn't gone off. So I went back to the group and I said to them, look, that it hasn't lit. And there was this friend that Luke, our videographer, had, who was like, don't worry, I'll just stick a sparkler in it. I was like, no, please don't do that. And off he went. He just went round the corner, stuck a sparkler in it, came back. The flare was lit. I had to run with it. And then we let some fireworks off. And again, it was really, really windy. The Catherine wheel came off of the firework and there was like this moment when Luke was looking at me and I was singing in front of the fireworks and I could feel it behind me getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And he just kind of gave me this look like, move. But he didn't want me to stop singing because he wanted to because it looked amazing. But he also didn't want me to be in the fireworks.
Yeah.
So he was like, come forward. So yeah, it was a real experience filming that one. And then we went back and we filmed it again because it was on a day that wasn't quite so windy. But the idea, I guess, is just, it was really just to kind of, the song itself is sort of sounds like it's like a sexy song, but it's actually about the creation of fire. And it's like the ironies of human behavior and what we use fire for, which is like, creation and destruction. I mean, particularly at the moment, there's so much going on at the moment related to fire. So it kind of is an insight into humans. And like, I think fire, it's this sort of visually, it's this really powerful.
Incredibly hypnotic, isn't it? Yeah. But it's also like very dangerous. And I think that was kind of what we were.
As I learned.
Yeah.
So it was, and I think, the thing is with Luke is that we've just been really, really lucky to find a collaborator who really understands what we're trying to do, and all of his ideas are just exactly what we were looking for. So
yeah, it's fantastic when you can build that relationship and you've got someone that can see your vision and put it into practice, because as you say, the video element does just add those extra layers to it. And so a lot of the time, I will hear a song of an older band, and I'll actually, the thing that comes into my head is the video. Like when you hear that, and it's fantastic that you've done what you've done, and that video in particular, like you say, works on even more levels than I thought it would. So it's absolutely worth checking out. Listeners, as always, there will be links in the bio, and we'll take you to all of this that we are talking about: the album pre-order, the videos, the singles. Definitely check everything out. Well worth it, and absolutely fantastic video. Absolutely loved that, and like going back slightly, Sarah, to when you said obviously like your lesson learned was that you sort of got into it more for the live side, and obviously the recording side sort of come along with that. We are going to move into the live side now. So whenever a band puts out an album, it's tradition. They normally play a few shows around the time of the release, and you are no different. You've got the Grace in London on the 25th, which is a great venue. I love that venue as an independent venue. Like, it's fantastic. And then you're off to Scotland for a few shows. I believe you've got some sort of smaller shows and signings and things. I think Nottingham I did see. And again, there will be a link in the bio for listeners. Go and see obviously where Blue Violet are playing, and try and pop along if you can, because again, I get the suspicion you wouldn't regret doing so. For you guys, it must be, again, just exciting to you've created these songs and now you're going to go and present them to the world on stage live, and they obviously normally quite often songs take on sort of new life when they hit the stage. So again, similar question to the first question, and I'm sure I know what the answer is going to be, but how excited are you to get out and play these shows for people?
No way looking at me like that.
Well, like I've just spoken for ages.
Oh no, yeah, really, really excited. I think we did a tour at the end of last year, and it was so much fun to be on stage. And yeah, I'm just kind of ready to do it again, to be honest. I think we really gelled as a band on that tour because we have people that we play with as a full band, and yeah, I think album launches are always fun as well. They're
Yeah.
kind of you see a lot of your kind of your friends there as well, and people that you know in music, and it's just going to be a good night.
And the album comes out on Sam's
Yeah.
birthday as well.
Oh
So
yeah,
your birthday.
Nice.
so that signing in Rough Trade Nottingham is on the actual day the album comes out as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah, on the 24th.
that'll be.
I think to your point though, that the bringing the songs to the stage, one of the things that's really interesting about that is that you think that you know which songs are going to connect with people, and you think that you know how people are going to react to certain songs, but actually often you learn so much about like what you've created when you bring it to the stage.
Yeah, that's true.
And there are certain songs particularly that maybe songs that you felt were like quite personal to you that you maybe didn't know that other people were going to get, and they end up actually really connecting with them, or songs that you thought people would love, and you know, maybe they didn't connect so much.
Or you play them for the first time and you just happen to get like an audience that's quite quiet, and you think that song's shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then the next couple of gigs it goes down well, and you're like, oh no, it was just a dud.
Yeah, it is a great proving ground, obviously. But for bands to go out and play shows, but obviously, like you say, for the songs as well.
Yeah.
Do they stand up as I believe they do? Are other people going to buy into them? So it's fantastic, and obviously we all love the live side. And I always give out the band's social handles. It's become a bit of a tradition. I'd like to think in 2025 now, I should say, that listeners would find you on social media without my help, but it will flash up on the screen, and it is. We are Blue Violet across all of the social channels. So I haven't got to read out 4 different ones with all kinds of underscores and everything in them. So thank you for that.
You thought that one through.
Absolutely, you did. And listeners, take advantage of that. And obviously do go and follow the band across all the social media, because that's where you can stay up to date with everything that's going to be coming in the future. And one of the questions would be, you touched on, you were out with Echo Belly last year, and you had a big year obviously in 2024. A lot of these singles coming out, the tour there. You guested with Gaslight Anthem as well, which must have been a hell of an experience. So in 2024 was this great year. Obviously we know that 2025 is getting off to a good start here with an album coming out, but are there more shows that are going to come in the year? What are your goals for the year, I suppose, in this first podcast of the year? I should go a bit traditional.
Well, there are a few bits that are kind of getting confirmed at the moment. So it's looking like it's going to be a busy year, which is great news. But really the goals for this year, actually, the main goals really for me are circled around live, just playing this album as much as possible and just getting it out there for people to hear, connecting. I think the thing that I love the most about playing live, obviously it's the performance, but also it's the opportunity to connect in real life with real humans, and go and meet them after the show, and chat to them, find out where people are from that are listening to your music, or what they like, or so that is, it's kind of always my goal, and it's the reason that I love making music. But yeah, this year, because we've got this new album, it's even more.
Yeah, and I think that the reason maybe why we're looking forward to the shift into going out and just playing the songs and playing the songs and playing the songs is because I think we started this campaign in April 24. So it's been quite a long campaign running into the actual album coming out. So it'll be really nice to get it out there, and then to just go and play lots of live gigs, basically.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And, it goes to my point, listeners, follow the band on social media, because there is more to come this year. Obviously, that is where you can hear about it first. So do, head along, follow the band. It's been amazing getting to chat with you. We've got one last question before we close out, and we love to follow up our talk around live music, we've just put in a spotlight on some of the fantastic venues that we've got out there because obviously cost of living crisis on the back of COVID and everything else that we've had to deal with, a lot of our beloved venues are struggling. So I always like just to ask you if you could give a shout out to a venue of your choice or perhaps one each. Is there any venues that you would just love to give a shout out to?
Well, we have played many gigs in King Tut's in Glasgow, which is just as far as like those old grungy perfect venues go. It's just incredible, and we always have had such a wonderful turnout there. We're playing there in February, but it's just, I mean, to me, I just think it's just such a wonderful venue, and it's just still got such great character. The energy in the room is always so good. So that would be my one.
Nice.
What about you?
Maybe the Hawley Arms in Camden, just
Yeah.
because it was always a fun one to go and play. I'm talking like way back now, the last time I played there, but I love that place. And also the Troubadour as well.
Yeah, we played some really great shows.
I think they won an award recently, an independent venue award of some kind. And they're great the way they've kept it going and stuff. So
Yeah, it's a
but
fantastic
there's so
shout
many.
out.
I love
Exactly.
that there's everyone you go to, they're run with a lot of heart, and
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love that you just said that, Sam, because they are run with a lot of heart. Because, I mean, for listeners, again, I will bang on about this over my various podcasts quite a lot. And you don't run a music venue in 2025 really to make money because it's
Yeah.
really not happening. You're doing it because you love music and you love to support artists. And again, I know we're all struggling with cost of living and everything going on in life, but buying tickets in advance and pre-ordering albums, if you've got the ability to do so, listeners, I would always encourage you to do so. So obviously we've got an album and some gigs here that if you're listening to this podcast, hopefully you might be inclined to do that. So that is my kind of final message. I'll get off my soapbox and just throw the final message of the podcast I always give to the guests. So what would you like to close out the podcast with?
Well, just to say thank you very much for having us and for listening to the album, and so glad that you've enjoyed it, and we're very excited for it to come out.
and maybe to pre-order the album so that we can make enough money to get Sarah a safety supervisor on the next
Yes,
next
please
time
do.
she wants to do a music video with a firework in her hand.
Absolutely, because my day job persona was terrified when you were saying that. It's like, what? But no, absolutely.
Okay, we were safe. We were safe.
I am sure. I am sure you were. Yeah, no, thank you once again so much for coming on the podcast. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. I really do hope you enjoyed that chat with Blue Violet, and I really hope that you're excited about the release of Faux Anima. It really is a great album that you definitely need to check out. You really should also follow the band across social media to stay up to date with everything coming from them. And of course, while you're there, please do give Full Pelt a like. We're on Facebook at Full Pelt and on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Full Pelt Music. Finally, from us, please do like and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening, because we will be back very soon with another episode of the Full Pelt Music Podcast.